Nobody walks into a scheduled meeting expecting to be treated like a ghost. But that's exactly how Harold McKenna felt one quiet Wednesday in May. A man who'd spent 6 decades mending engines, growing crops, and raising livestock under the open skies now stood inside a sleek, high-rise office in the heart of Cedar Bluff, a city far removed from his dusty roots, feeling like an outsider. Harold was 67. He'd grown up on the McKenna homestead in Red Elm, a stretch of land near the base of the Blackridge Hills, where people lived slow but worked fast. His hands bore the map of his life. Thick palms, cracked knuckles, and the kinds of scars that don't fade. He didn't speak much, but when he did, folks listened. At least they used to. He arrived at Horizon First Credit Union, an institution he'd never stepped foot in before, at exactly 9:45 a.m. for his 10 o'clock appointment with the branch executive, a woman named Rachel Dennings. Her name had been listed clearly in the confirmation text he received 2 days prior. In one hand, he held an old leather satchel, its surface worn with age but polished with sentiment. It had been a parting gift from his brother, given just before he left for the army all those years ago. Harold wore his neatest checkered shirt tucked into iron khakis, and had even taken a razor to his whiskers that morning, a rare occasion. The lobby was modern and cold. Clean glass walls, designer chairs that looked more like art than furniture, and soft music playing overhead. The scent of lavender and high-end furniture wax floated around him. As Harold stepped in, he tugged gently on the brim of his cap and approached the counter. "Good morning," he said, his voice even and low. "I've got a 10 o'clock meeting with Ms. Dennings. Name's Harold McKenna." The woman behind the desk, whose badge read Kira, didn't raise her eyes. Mid-30s, sharp blazer, dark eyeliner. She tapped a few keys without expression. "You're listed. Have a seat," she replied flatly, then went back to whatever was on her screen. Harold nodded, removed his cap, and lowered himself into a hard leather chair facing the oversized windows. Morning sun spilled in, cutting bright lines across the tile floor. He rested the satchel on his lap and waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 45. He didn't mind a wait. He'd spent his life waiting, for rain, for harvests, for calves to be born. But this was different. People came and went. A young man in a navy blue vest walked in, smiled at Kira, and was whisked into the back without delay. A woman in red stilettos and a luxury brand scarf followed. Same treatment. Harold glanced at the wall clock. It was 10:50. By 11:10, he leaned forward, arms on knees, glancing at the desk where Kira was now giggling at something on her phone. She turned it toward a nearby co-worker, showing him something funny. Harold's presence still hadn't registered. He stood and walked back to the desk. "Pardon me," he said, polite but firm. "Just checking. Ms. Dennings running late?" Kira gave him a tired look. "She's with a client. Shouldn't be much longer." Harold gave a quiet nod, but he knew she was lying. He'd counted 4 different people go in and out, each with shorter visits than the time he'd been sitting there. At 11:35, another man strolled through the doors, a younger guy with slicked hair and loud shoes. He gave Kira a casual, "Hey there," and was already on his way to the back without giving his name. That did it. Harold stood. "Excuse me," he said again, this time louder, clearer. "I've been here almost 2 hours. I had a scheduled meeting. That fella just walked in and didn't wait a breath." Kira looked annoyed now. "Sir, Ms. Dennings is extremely busy. You'll be called when it's your turn." "I had a time," Harold replied. 10 o'clock. It's almost lunch. She's finishing up," Kira said, tone clipped, eyes back on her screen. Harold turned without another word. He stared down at his satchel, lips pressed tight. Then, without ceremony, he stood and made his way past the desk. Kira finally looked up. "Sir, you can't go back there." He didn't pause. The heels of his worn boots made soft, steady thumps as he pushed open the frosted glass doors. A hallway stretched before him, quiet and carpeted, lined with closed offices. He scanned until he found her. Rachel Dennings. Alone, sitting behind a massive desk, typing something, phone in one hand. She hadn't been meeting anyone. He knocked once on the doorframe. "Ms. Dennings," he said, tone calm but absolute. She looked up, startled. "Mr. McKenna? You weren't called in yet." I've been out there for 2 hours. She frowned. You can't just walk in. I just did, he said. I waited. I followed the rules. I got passed over. Now I'm here, and I expect to be treated with some basic respect. Before she could respond, another voice came from behind him. Harold McKenna? He turned to see a tall man in a charcoal blazer, silver at the temples, and a calm expression. I'm Philip Reed, he said, stepping forward. Regional manager. I understand there's been a problem. There's been more than a problem, Harold replied, his voice finally showing a crack of frustration. I sat out there while others got ushered in like royalty. I guess folks like me don't count much in places like this. Philip nodded slowly. Let's talk. They moved into a larger conference room. It was quiet, professional. Harold sat. Philip folded his hands. I'm sorry, Philip said. You shouldn't have been treated that way. I don't want sorry, Harold replied. I want to know why it happened. Philip looked him squarely in the eye. You're right. This place got too comfortable thinking respect comes with a Rolex. We forgot that character doesn't wear a badge or a necktie. Harold let out a breath, his jaw loosening. I don't need special, he said. Just fair. And you'll get it, Philip promised. Right now, true to his word, Philip reviewed Harold's loan documents personally. By the time they finished, it was just past 1 o'clock. As they stood, Philip placed a hand on Harold's shoulder. You reminded us of something important today, and I hope every person in this building learns from it. Harold left without looking back. As he passed the reception desk, Kira avoided his eyes. He didn't say a word. He stepped outside into the warm air, the sun now high overhead. A breeze stirred the leaves on the sidewalk trees. He pulled out his phone. A message lit up. Loan approved. He smiled, not because of the approval itself, but because it meant something bigger. He had been seen, heard, respected, and maybe next time, someone like him wouldn't have to fight just to be treated like they mattered. Harold didn't set out that morning to make a point. He just wanted a fair shot, an honest meeting at the time he was promised. But by the time he walked out of that building, he'd done more than secure a loan. He'd exposed something deeper. The quiet prejudice of assumption, the invisible hierarchy of appearances, the way certain people are waved through while others are asked to wait, and wait, and wait. What happened inside Horizon first wasn't just about one man being overlooked. It was about every person who walks into a room and feels small because they don't fit the mold, because their worth isn't hanging from their wrist or stitched onto a label. Harold carried his value in his hands, in his work, in his word. And for too long, places like that bank hadn't seen it. But they did now. Harold's quiet defiance, his steady voice, and unshaken dignity broke through the polished glass barrier that had separated him from being heard. He didn't yell. He didn't cause a scene. He just walked forward when no one else would let him in. That's what made the difference. The approval message on his phone wasn't just an answer to a financial request. It was a confirmation of something far more important. That respect, real respect, can't be reserved for a select few. And from that day forward, every door Harold walked through opened just a little wider for everyone who would come after him.